Philadelphia might have just gotten the Lane Johnson update we were all hoping for, but the focus has suddenly shifted to Landon Dickerson, a new report putting his future with the Birds in doubt. Plus, what Jeffrey Lurie did that has Nick Sirianni right on the brink, the big ask Jalen Hurts is about to receive to hopefully fix this offense. Thomas Mott, this is the Thomas Mott Show. Well, while all of us were worrying about Jeff Stoutland leaving the Birds and the reported internal friction created by Nick Sirianni and Capitullo that led the legendary offensive line coach to basically retire, a new bombshell report just dropped out of the blue. Staying with the offensive line, though, but adding a brand new possible departure looming on the horizon. At least, though, I'm not talking about Lane Johnson because we got a brand new hint yesterday about his future from Jordan Mailata, and at least it sounds pretty promising. First, though, I'm going to try to give away the Jeff Stoutland University t-shirt you see on your screen right here to someone down below who drops a like and comments Stoutland U if today's video gets to 60,000 views. So drop a like and a comment, and hopefully one of you guys wins the shirt. Now, to the big story of the week, and that has been the Eagles' offensive line. It's been the spotlight literally every single day, and guess what? We get another bombshell. As Mike Garfolo and Jeff McClain both reported on Thursday that Landon Dickerson is mulling retirement, with Garfolo mentioning, quote, an offseason of significant change for the Eagles could include guard Landon Dickerson's uncertain future. Jeff McClain mentions here Dickerson's no certainty to return. I've heard some of the same. Only 27 years old and 5 years into his career, but his body has been through a lot. Yeah, I did not see that coming. You didn't see that coming. Like he just said, he's 27 years old. He has 2 years left on a massive contract extension, a former really Pro Bowl, all-pro type left guard, and it does seem like when you dig into the details, Landon Dickerson could actually be retiring. Dickerson is essentially a medical marvel at this point in his career. He's undergone 13 surgeries dating back to college. Sure, he's 27 years old. He should be young, but my goodness, go through the injury since college. Look at this. First off, tore his right ACL in 2016, then had right ankle surgery in 2017, had left ankle surgery in 2018, then tore his left ACL in 2020. Again, that's just university. Then in the NFL, he had thumb surgery in 2021, had lingering foot sprains in 2022, had thumb surgery again in 2023, underwent multiple undisclosed lower body procedures in 2024, and then, you remember, 2025 had meniscus surgery during training camp, and then suffered a series of ankle and back injuries basically all season long. And there's no debate that all of that, especially this past season, played a massive role in his regression from a Pro Bowl caliber left guard, as early as 2024, to a bottom third guard according to PFF in 2025. He really just never looked the same and never seemed to be at full strength and was always missing blocks and really in pain on the sideline. And then in his final interview following the loss to the 49ers, he basically told us post-game he might never be the same.
You don't want to let the guys down beside you because you've been through a lot.
You've played through a lot of injuries. You've come back from a lot of injuries. I guess, how did this season compare to some of the experiences you've had in the past?
Shitty.
Obviously, it's not official. There's always a chance he could go ahead and take some months off and then eventually come back. That's my hope because he's under contract, as we'll see. But you have Garfolo and McClain both saying it's more likely Lane comes back than Landon Dickerson. Honestly, it's not a good sign. And my natural question is, what happens next? First, clearly, Philadelphia needs a new left guard if this ends up happening, which either you spend an early draft pick on to get him replaced as quickly as possible, or maybe spend big money in free agency to bring in a free agent left guard. Again, either one works, but neither is guaranteed. I would say 100% Philadelphia, though, is spending a first round or at least a second round draft pick on an offensive lineman. But next, there are also some major cap ramifications here that people don't realize, and they're not good. Because Dickerson still has 2 years left on his big contract extension from 2 years prior, that if he were to retire, let's say today, Philadelphia would eat $27 million in dead cap money and essentially lose $17 million in cap space this coming offseason. And so Howie's likely move would be to designate Landon Dickerson as a post-June 1st retirement, either Jason Kelce and also Fletcher Cox. That saves them a little bit of money, but it's still not very good. Because Landon's contract had a $20 million signing bonus up front, he would still be on the books for $15 million in dead cap money in 2026 and $12 million in 2027 if he was a post-June 1st retirement. The good news here, though, is that it would at least save Philadelphia about $5 million in spending money this year, but again, big dead cap hits the next 2 seasons. This is clearly a big blow. I mean, the guy is an all-pro caliber left guard, one of the best left guards in the National Football League last season, only 27 years old, and yet he might have to retire because he's been so banged up. The one perk here, though, is that we saw what a 60%, 70% Landon Dickerson looks like this past season. It's not good. At worst, if he retires, you could at least put somebody in there who was 100% healthy, and then maybe the offensive line play gets a little bit better. I do think, though, that if Landon Dickerson does officially retire, the Eagles will have to really hope and pray to their lucky stars that Lane Johnson doesn't follow suit. And well, maybe that prayer might have already been answered because, at least according to Jeff McClain, that decision has yet to be made and is, quote, still very much undecided for Lane about his future. But then, yesterday, Jordan Mailata and Brian Baldinger both told PHLY that they think the All-Pro will run it back in 2026.
Are you a part of like the recruitment to try and convince Lane to come back for another year? You've been in his ear about it?
I think, yes. It's his decision to make. It's him to let you guys know if he's coming back.
Yeah.
Yes, he's coming back, but
just being with Lane last night, I think he's going to play.
Yeah.
Like, I think he's going to play. But he also said something that kind of shocked me, that I'll give this guy a chance. Let's give whoever it is, I'm going to give him a chance. Which is pretty open-minded.
Yeah.
When you've been groomed by one guy.
And so I guess the insane Eagles offensive line week will at least end on a good note here, because Lane is probably coming back according to Mailata and Brian Baldinger. But still, we lost Jeff Stoutland a couple of days ago. We're probably losing Landon Dickerson. And man, Lane Johnson is, as of now, still up in the air. All this, though, then leads to maybe the bigger look behind the curtain that McClain offered on his podcast yesterday. And that included a ton of details on the following storylines. First, the Jeff Stoutland divorce, according to McClain, was, quote, messy, with Stout putting out his tweet earlier than agreed upon to show he was not on the same page as the Birds. Further emphasizing that this was not some sort of slight misunderstanding and that, it's an old man retiring. This was a true divorce all the way down to its core. And you wonder how it sits with guys like Jordan Mailata, who was asked during Super Bowl Media Week yesterday how he feels about the loss of the professor of Stoutland University, and doesn't seem like he's taking it very well.
just put it plain and simple, heartbroken. It doesn't feel good just because of just everything I know. Everything I've been taught has been by Stout. So I'm interested to see, where we go moving forward. But it's going to be an interesting challenge.
Next, Jeff McClain also mentioned that Nick Sirianni is on the thinnest ice of his entire career. And he says thinner than 2023. After that collapse, that's a pretty thin ice that he was on right there. And also thinner than the first 6 weeks of 2024. We forget, before the bye week, before the Eagles went on that crazy run to win the Super Bowl, Nick Sirianni was reportedly a loss away, a game away from being fired. And so if McClain is saying that Nick Sirianni is on thinner ice than both of those two stances, that means the ice has got to be pretty darn thin. And finally, and this was honestly the most interesting note from Jeff McClain, he mentioned that the overarching message sent from above to both players and coaches, which included Jalen Hurts, is to, quote, get on board with the new offensive changes or move on. Which to me is the best news we possibly could have hoped for, because this tells me it's come from the top. And I mean the very, very top, and Eagles owner Jeffrey Lurie. Lurie clearly watched 2025 and is not going to stand for another season like we just had this past year. I think all these offensive changes, from Mannion all the way down to Stoutland, have come from Lurie, who wants to go from a vanilla Sirianni offense to a more modern, dynamic, and explosive scheme. And while the Birds are way too talented to blow everything up here, aka fire Sirianni, get rid of Jalen Hurts, at least in Lurie's mind, this has clearly been a message sent. It's the most important offseason for the head coach, the quarterback, and everybody involved in the offense. And technically, isn't this what all of us were asking for? Not just this past season, but the entire Sirianni tenure. We want a dynamic offense. And it sure seems like we are at least going to get the first true attempt at that with Sean Mannion, brand new offensive system, and no more Jeff Stoutland. And while sure, it's been a very hard week, I think they did not handle the Jeff Stoutland firing or retirement, or whatever you want to call it, very well. That was clearly botched. I've said multiple times this week, if Philadelphia had to get rid of Jeff Stoutland in order to go ahead and get a Ben Johnson or Sean McVay offense, we would all take that deal. There's no guarantee we're actually going to get a Ben Johnson or Sean McVay offense, but it sure seems like they're taking steps in that direction, and I'm expecting what you see on the passing game, the running game this coming season to be night and day different than anything we've seen under Nick Sirianni. This is not the Cleveland Browns, right? We're not dealing with an organization that has a history of incompetence, an organization that has failed at every single road, no matter who's the head coach or who's the quarterback or anything. This is a Howie Roseman, and more importantly, I would even argue Jeffrey Lurie run organization. Jeffrey Lurie is a guy that is so respected in the National Football League, just being like a no nonsense, let's go win. I don't want to deal with any sort of garbage. I'm about winning football games. And I think everyone loves Jeffrey Lurie for that. He's really been a steadying ship for Philadelphia his entire tenure, and he's the guy who brought the Birds not only one Super Bowl, but a bunch of Super Bowl appearances, and then finally a Super Bowl victory, followed by another Super Bowl victory. And as the Commodore just said, we're like the most successful franchise, not named the Chiefs or the Patriots, in the NFL in the past decade. And the past 5 years in the NFC, Philadelphia has virtually run it every single year. They have been one of the potential one seeds, fall off in 2023. They were a potential one seed in 2024, missed it by a game. They win the Super Bowl anyway. This is a franchise that just beat the Chiefs by like 1 billion points in the Super Bowl about a year ago. And the roster is still very, very, very competitive. And if they just have one more, or I should say another, good offseason, where I makes a couple of kind of, there's an interesting move, or, I like that move a lot there, and it turns out to be a Mekhi Becton in 2024, or a Zach Bond in 2024, and the offense looks better, which we expect it to, more competent, more dynamic, this team can definitely win some more football games, and it's not the end of a dynasty, or it was fun while it lasted and everything's going to, hell in a handbasket. They should be okay because of who is running this thing, regardless if you think that Nick Sirianni is a clown or not, which, is very much up for debate. Like, do this thought experiment. If they thought that Jalen Hurts was this sinking ship and he's the main problem, it's like, oh my gosh, why would they keep Jalen Hurts and then completely revamp the offense, right? Because it'd be way easier if Jalen Hurts was truly the problem, find someone to trade, ship him out of here, go for Joe Burrow or draft somebody or put Tanner McKee in. I don't know. But the fact that they have kept Jalen Hurts and then decided to completely rebuild the offense around him, give him a brand new scheme, to me, it shows a lot of trust and shows that, I think we failed him as a quarterback in 2025, and we're going to try to do everything we possibly can to get this thing right. And organizations have to do this, Josh. They have to tie themselves down to a quarterback. And to a lot of teams, it can be a detriment because you have a quarterback who's a subpar guy who's never going to win a Super Bowl. It's just like, what are we really doing? But they have a guy who has not only won a Super Bowl, he has made 2, and he has looked very, very good in both of those seasons. And I think that they truly believe they can get back to 2022 Jalen Hurts, the best version that we've ever seen. For sure, back to 2024 Jalen Hurts. But they want to make sure that Jalen Hurts is growing as a quarterback. And under Ken Patullo, he really didn't. And he felt like every press conference in a weird Jalen Hurts mystical, speaking in poems and rituals sort of way, he was asking for help. He was begging for help on offense and realized halfway through it was never going to come. And now he gets his wish, and now it is on Jalen Hurts. Much like it's on Nick Sirianni. It's on Jalen Hurts to prove in a really good offense, in a Matt LaFleur offense, Jalen Hurts can elevate and be even better, and all eyes are going to be on him in 2026. Now, of course, plenty more stuff happening in the next couple of days and weeks. Once the Super Bowl ends on Sunday, 2 days from now, really the offseason begins. That's when you're going to start hearing all the rumors on who they're going to sign, who they could trade for. February gets pretty nuts because it walks right into March, so go ahead and subscribe, drop a like, and hope you guys enjoy the show, even though it is the offseason. I appreciate everyone watching. I'm Thomas Mott. This has been Thomas Mott Show.